Starcraft fans from around the world, thank you for joining us once again for Star League on Thursday. My name is Valdez, with me is Wolf. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Valdez. I'm in a really good mood. We have perhaps our last non-mirror matchup of the tournament here in this Losers Finals. If Stats cannot overcome Solar here tonight, that Grand Finals will be a Zerg versus Zerg, and I think a lot of people, as many of fans as Solar does have even abroad in the foreign scene, a lot of people are hoping Stats can come through and defeat the imbalanced matchup and actually go into that finals.
Yeah, I'm hoping so too, to be honest. I think that'll make for a better finals. You know, we already saw Dark versus Solar play again. That's another interesting story. If they do go into the finals, if Solar does make it there to fight Dark, it'll be the rematch. You know, he'll get another shot. But this is kind of how we've gotten here. If you don't know it by now, maybe you haven't been paying attention. It doesn't really matter all too much.
It's too late. But the only thing to look at here is the final bar at the bottom. It says Lunars Finals. That's where we're at now. And it's the losers semis winner versus the winners final loser, who is Solar in this case. And Stats gone up to meet him here. The loser does lose, is out of the tournament, of course, because the next thing is the finals. But keep in mind, this is not a Smash Bros. Tournament. I always bring up Smash Bros. Because it's one of the only tournaments that are like, big tournaments that use a double elimination bracket where there's an advantage in the finals for the winner's final player. But in this case, it's just going to be a best of 7. So no advantage given to Dark, but he will face whoever wins this. And like you said, it could be a rematch between Solar and Dark, or it could be Stats if he can actually win this PvZ tonight.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people are thinking that Solar is going to win this one. You were talking about racial imbalance, quote unquote. I'm not sure if we're there quite yet. A lot of people like to talk about the maps, how they're definitely in the favor of Zerg. It does look like that from what we have seen so far in these tournaments. Zerg's doing very, very well. But Stats, I mean, he dominated Patience. And of course, it's a different matchup. It's a PvP, but if he can just get that confidence into this match, which I'm not sure if he will, but if he does, he will be on fire tonight, and he's definitely not going to be just a walkover for Solar.
Yeah, he's not. He's definitely not going to be a walkover, like you said, and he's not invincible, but he does look strong. If I had to name one Protoss right now that could defeat Solar, I think it would be him. Like even more so than Zest right now, just with how he's done consistently in these individual leagues. Let's take a look at Stats a little bit closer here. The last 5 games he played were in Pro League, and he did show a lot of games there, but he didn't show more than one versus Zerg. He only showed that one game versus Curious, and it wasn't that complicated of a game.
Yeah, it wasn't really. You can see his record against Zerg too is 3-6, not the best. Pretty common to see amongst Protoss players though. And on the other side here is his opponent Solar, the Zerg player. Did just play against Dark in that best of 7, went all the way to set 6. So he did lose 4-2 there in that matchup.
Yeah. As you guys can see, he doesn't have a lot of experience versus Protoss. In fact, only 3 games. He has a positive win rate, but not a lot of games for Stats to study, quite frankly, in this guy's ZVP. So something to keep in mind. Now, here are our maps. Looks like we're going to save an arena for last here, and this is based on priority of choice.
Yeah, and take a look at what Solar picks. He picks Central Protocol, Prion Terraces, Ruins of Ceres, 3 of these maps that Zergs are like, I love this map, I want to play against Protoss on this map, please, can we get these maps? So we're going to see Central Protocol as number 2, and Dusk Towers was Stats' first choice, of course, so that is going to be number 1. But guys, let's jump into an interview now with both of these players.
프로토스전 굉장히 잘한다고 생각하고 있었어요.
대엽이 형이 지금 폼으로는 탑 3 안에 드시는 것 같고 옛날이나 지금이나 꾸준히 잘하시는 것 같아요.
저는 초반보다는 중후반 이렇게 보는 스타일이어가지고 운영으로 넘어간다면은 강민수 선수가 더 까다롭지 않을까 생각이 들어서
토스전 같은 경우에는 국내 리그에서 방송 경기에서 아마 한 번밖에 아직 한 적이 없어서 좀 전략 노출이 덜한 토스전이 훨씬 더 좋은 것 같아요.
한 4대2 정도로 보고 있어요. 사기 종족인 저그고 심지어 맵까지 저그한테 웃어주는 이런 상황이어서 4대2로 보고 있어요.
저도 4대2나 4대3 정도로 제가 이길 것 같아요.
민수야, 넌 아직 젊잖아. 형은 25이야. 우승 타이틀이 하나도 없다. 너는 해외대회에서도 우승도 몇 번 해봤고 형이 좀 안쓰럽지 않니?
형, 저는 지금 공허일산 솔직히 들어와서 제가 모든 프로게이머 중에 게임을 제가 제일 많이 했다고 생각하거든요. 이렇게 열심히 많이 했는데 여기서 떨어지면 너무 억울할 것 같아요. 한 번만 살려주세요.
그래도 아직 어리잖아. 그래도 결승전에는 저저전 동족전보다는 점프전이 훨씬 재밌지. 이번 결승은 형이 올라갈게.
저저전이 나와도 서프전보다 훨씬 꿀잼 경기를 만들 자신 있고, 그리고 저희 팀이 지금 결승에 못 간 지가 3년 정도가 됐어요. 저희도 한번 가봐야 되지 않을까 싶어요.
이건 개인 리그야. 형은 8년 못 갔어. 한번 가보자 이번에. 우여곡절 끝에 어떻게 탑3 안에 들게 됐는데 하필이면 제 상대들이 저그들이네요. 멋지게 격파하는 모습 보여드리고 결승 올라갈 테니까 많이 응원해주세요.
네, 저도 일단은 준비 되게 많이 하고 있고, 저희 팀 팬분들이 결승 무대를 한번 가보지 못한 게 한 3년 정도가 다 돼가는데, 결승 무대 한번 3년 만에 밝게 해드릴 수 있도록 미칠 듯이 준비할 테니까 많이 응원해주세요. 수고하셨습니다.
네, 수고하셨습니다.
So, pretty interesting interview there.
Yeah.
We can go over it shortly. Both of them talking about how they want to pass the other and make it into the finals, and both of them giving their reasons why the other guy should let them do it.
Yeah, the big dynamic with Stats is he was seeing his older dynamic brother, or rather the older brother dynamic.
The older dynamic brother.
But he was saying, I'm older than you, I've waited 8 years for this moment, I have more experience than you, I've never, won a real finals before. And I will say this one last time, seriously, the final time WECG qualifiers doesn't count. But Stats is really here now, and he's like, you've already won a foreign tournament. You have, you're young still. You still have a lot of life left in you. Give this win to me.
Yeah, and Solar's like, hey, no one from our team has won in like 3 years. I think he said something like that.
Yeah, and Stats was like, but this is individual leagues. I haven't won for 8 years.
Yeah. So, either way, both of these players obviously do want to go up against Dark there in the grand finals. Stats was saying, like, okay, I've made it this far to the top 3, and wow, look at this. I got to play against Zerg, the OP Zerg on these not good maps. Like, he was going hard. He was, like, saying everything, He was just, like, unhappy with the matchup and the maps right now.
It was interesting, we saw the map picks actually. Ruins of Ceres went 3rd priority for both players, which means they both didn't dislike it, and a lot of people are saying it's a good map for Zerg. I think it can be a good map for Frost, depending on the spawning locations, but interesting that one ends up being 3rd. But we are going to see Central Protocol for perhaps the first time in this tournament that I can remember. Like,
I think so, because we had our first best of 7 the other day. I know we had Stats versus Patience too, but no Central Protocol there. No Central Protocol. I think that was map 7 for Dark versus Solar, so we never got there. So we'll definitely see it tonight.
It's really
in
happening.
A PvZ. So I don't know how this is really going to go down, or if Stats is prepared for this, but he definitely was not ranking Central Protocol high up on his list.
No, it definitely was not. So I'm really curious to see how this one is going to go, just simply because I haven't seen that many games on this map, because it's always vetoed. And yeah, I'm sure I've played a few ladder games on it. Who hasn't? But I mean, this is pro play. This is not Wolf's like adventures on the ladder with Void Rays and whatnot.
Wolf's Void Ray all ins on Central Protocol.
I mean, hey, it works on any map as long as you're still like really low league on the Korean server and you don't play that much, like once every few months. But yeah, so I'm excited to see how this one is going to play out. And I got to ask you, do you have a favorite here?
I think I'd have to give it to Solar, just barely. They were talking about, both of them said like 4-2, and Solar was like maybe 4-3. I'd probably say a 4-2 for Solar. That's what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, I would go say Solar 4-1. I'll give only one map to Stats. I just think with the map pool currently and his lack of confidence versus Zerg and most process, even though I said before I think he's got the best chance of winning a best of 7 versus Solar right now. Out of all the process we've had, doing well in individual leagues.
Yeah.
I have to give him that, but still, I don't think he can do it. But we'll see if he can surprise me today.
Yeah, we've been surprised before. I thought that Stats versus Patience, for example, was going to be a closer series, and then Stats bopped him. It was a 4-0. It was not close. So I said it before, if Stats has his confidence today, he wins the first game. I think that's very key for him as well. He can really get on a roll here against Solar.
Yeah. Absolutely. Dust Towers will be the first map, and this was Solar's map choice. Keep that in mind. the map, I think Stats ranked 7th.
No. This was the one that
Or,
Stats
sorry, no.
ranked first.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've got those.
They both
I get
start
the
with
names.
S, you know.
Yeah.
Either
Right.
way, guys, let's jump into game number 1 right now on Dust Towers between Stats and Solar. So here we are in map number 1, Dust Towers, for our losers finals to decide who will get to the next stage. Down here in the bottom left, in the red, Verdos player, it is Stats, JT Rolster.
A lot of fans coming down to support him tonight. I'm feeling the pressure already. His opponent to the top right in blue, it is Solar. Wearing that Samsung jersey. And a lot of fans for him here as well. Hearing the fan cheers come out.
Yeah. Stats going for an early scout here. It's going to see that the base is outside. So no safe base for Solar. Wants to get that creep spread out on the map first. And we'll probably go into three base play here pretty quickly on this map. It's a very, very defensive, gigantic 2-player map. So you do have room to go for this kind of greedy macro play.
Yeah. The hatchery that he does have down here on the low ground also gives him a little bit better, reinforcing potential. But like you said, it's such a big map. It's a defensive map. Very rarely do you see Zergs attack off 2 base on this map. It's insanely uncommon. But we'll see what he has planned here. This is Stats continuing to scout just to confirm that there will in fact be a 3rd base. You already saw the gas mining, so he knows it's going to be an early speed, so this probe won't be able to stick around forever. The pool is now done as well. And just 2 lings to ward it away. And for me, what's more interesting is how is Stats going to play this. So you're going to be playing Phoenixes, he's going to be playing, a depth pressure into heavy Phoenix. How many Phoenix is he going to make? Those are the questions. Is he going to go 2 Stargate Phoenix, or is he going to go for the faster 3rd into the double Robo? The Immortal pushes are really strong right now. And a lot of people are kind of countering Lurkers with Immortals by, some pros are finally actually brave enough to attack them and use barriers correctly. Like, it seemed like no one was confident for the longest time, but we're starting to see Process on his put the barriers up and walk in.
Just go for it, drag the other supporting units away from the Lurkers and then go for the attack.
Yeah, blanket some storms and then hit the B button on those Immortals, whatever you have it hotkey to.
So, is this actually the map that Rogue went for Baneling drops on? I don't think it's. I'm just wondering this randomly.
I think it is. Yeah,
I think it was
so.
because you can get into the main pretty easily, and you can get into the 3rd base quite easily as well out here by just dropping into
you're right.
Overlords. But we do see Solar getting that speed for the Overlords first. Could just go for some drop play, or maybe he just wants to get some scouting information down early on in the game. He is going to see now with an Overlord that it is, in fact, 1 Stargate Phoenix for now.
Yeah, and he's going to be able to continue to scout throughout this entire game with this. He can keep his Overlords a little bit easier alive, like protecting them. Like, these first 2 Overlords are going to live. Because they have speed, so these Phoenixes that are coming out won't be able to chase and kill them. Or if they do, they'd have to really commit, like I guess he is going to. But it means the other Overlord will escape. Oh, this probe. Okay, gets that planted. May pay for it with his life? No.
Not this time. And the Phoenix does find the Overlord. He just barely did see this. In fact, he was about to turn his Phoenix around. I saw it on the minimap.
Yeah, I actually
didn't commit to it.
I don't think the Phoenix, or rather the Overlord, is on move command. It's on retreat command right now, so I probably could have saved it. Yeah, it was on retreat command, which is like when a unit attacks a unit and it doesn't die, it just kind of moves a little bit away. I think he could have saved that, but there is a Baneling nest, Valdez. We could see that Baneling drop here. It could be for a multitude of things. Obviously, the Baneling nest can be utilized in an army comp as well. It's pretty rare, but it can start to get him ahead with, some probe damage early on. It can really cripple the economy of Stats if he actually gets some successful drop damage done.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that when Rogue did do this build, I forget who the Protoss was, that Protoss did go for Phoenixes.
Zest.
I think it was Zest, yeah.
Zest. It was, the spawns were reversed, but yeah, it was this map. And he kept sending Overlords across the map, and Zest was probably like really confused.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he saw that Baneling nest yet, actually, to be honest. I think it's at the back of the natural. I don't think he saw it. He's just harassed drones at the natural on the third, but he hasn't seen the Baneling Nest yet. He's getting a forge up. And most Protoss players, like you were kind of getting to the slot, is they don't expect a Baneling drop when they have Phoenixes, because the Phoenixes are kind of a natural counter to that in a way.
Yeah. I suppose he could just go for Banelings on the ground too. He is getting that +1 attack. Maybe if you just make so many Banelings, you don't just go for a big attack into the big Protoss ball. Maybe it's going to work out here. I mean, Solar was saying also in his interview that he feels like he is the most practiced pro gamer, like he's played the most games. So, I mean,
he certainly has, probably.
I think he has. Yeah. He plays like all the tournaments. He goes pretty far in all of the individual leagues. He plays very often in Pro League, and he just spams ladder too, and custom games and stuff. So, definitely, maybe he's figured out something new. I mean, he hasn't made any Banelings just yet.
This is really interesting. Historically, there have been a few Protoss players to be known to make defensive Banelings versus gateway timings, like Lowly from the FX Open team in Russia, or Belarus, I believe it was actually really famous for this in Europe in the old days. But I think what we may be seeing here is just Banelings added into the ground army later on. Obviously, if you can connect them with the Adepts, it's quite powerful, and people aren't really making sentries all that much anymore. They're just making one for Guardian Shield. Force fields aren't as important as they used to be.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe it could work out, but let's just wait and see. I mean, he really hasn't shown us anything. Maybe he was thinking about doing a Baneling drop. He scouted where the building placement was. He didn't like it. There's Baneling speed.
Baneling speed, yeah. This is definitely going to be just part of the ground force, and I very heavily believe that Stats is not going to expect this. He's going for chargelets. Those chargelets are going to charge into the Banelings that have speed on the ground, and everything is going to blow up. You've seen it used a lot of the time just to drop on the army, when Colossi were used, that was sometimes used as well, but it's kind of harder to do that now. You'd have to morph a lot of Overlords to go for that kind of play.
We saw in the Korea versus the World show match series in China at GPL just recently. I don't remember exactly if it was this map, but Baneling's being used as part of the army as well after a Baneling drop, and obviously Zealot Charge is not really that useful versus this. It just causes your Zealots to crash in and die faster. It's not like a bad upgrade to have, because if you can eliminate the Banelings, it's still going to be useful versus the Hydras and drop harass and things of that nature, but I'm really curious to see how this is going to work out. I think some Zerg players are just starting to realize that Protoss are not setting up proper defense for these drops, as we see one loaded up right now, and their comp just doesn't allow for a good answer to Banelings. But we do see an Adept drop come back into this backdoor expansion, getting a little bit of damage done.
Yeah, not going to overcommit. And by the way, Stats has seen this Baneling Nest, so he is, in fact, patrolling those Phoenixes, getting a nice defense here for this drop. This drop is going to try to come along the left side.
Now he's mic gearing over here, though. He's not paying attention. He has not seen this yet. Okay, now he does. Controlling those Phoenixes. He will still need to pull his probes, because these Banelings are going to get out, and they have speed. Here we go. How many going to get out? 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's the overcharge, and every probe escapes.
Yeah, really nicely done. But look at this. All the Banelings being morphed in the middle of the map. He's going for that attack. There's only 2 sentries in that army. They do have full energy, but he needs to get the perfect force fields here. So snipes that Warp Prism, too.
Exactly. He gets that Warp Prism, so no more fear of counter drops. He did a huge Zealot Warp, and he's not going to go for any more sentries. If he can get good force fields and Side Storms, this is going to be like that GIF that everyone's seen on Reddit. Here come the force fields.
Really nice force fields. Look at those Banelings all in the back. They just couldn't get up the ramp. And a couple of overcharges definitely helped out there in the defense. He's going to try to go for it once again once the overcharges do fail.
The Lurker Den is nearly finished as well. Another Storm comes out. And if he baits out force fields, the Hydras do very well versus this comp with their range, but I just don't know how much longer he can keep fighting like this. There's so many Immortals. There's 8 Immortals in this composition. And he eliminates all the Zealots. He starts stepping forward with those Hydras, kills the Archon as well. And it's time to, I think, start, morphing some Lurkers.
Yep, all the High Templar die, and all of these Zealots die. And that's really what this is about, He's going to have Lurkers as a follow-up. He's keeping Stats on 3 bases for a very long time, keeping him very defensive. Meanwhile, he's got 4 base economy. He could take a pivot if he wants. I think he's going to go do that right now and just continue the pressure here.
I think you're right. Stork is here watching, by the way. He's been very supportive. Did not do very well in the Korea versus Foreigner show matches, unfortunately. But I'm only teasing. I love Stork. He's a coach.
I mean, he's
all the foreigners are
right?
tweeting at me like, look, they beat Stork. I'm like, man, Stork's in China. He's a coach. What do you want? Cancel on this Nexus over here, by the way. And
that is so key, especially after he sniped the Warp Prism too. There's like no pressure from Stats on the map.
he's also he's starting to have that gas problem here without that 4th base. His main base is nearly mined out mineral-wise. And attacking into this is not going to be easy without detection. Stats going to have to back off. A nice spread here, and I love that he continues to make these Banelings because with the upgrades he has for them, they're going to do decently well versus Zealots. They're going to soak up all the Zealot charges, and the Hydras are going to be free to do damage from behind, and then the Lurkers, of course, all that splash you get hit with is so dirty.
Big Zealot Warp in here at the 3rd base. These Zealots, they have +2 right now. They're doing a really nice number to these Lings that have no defensive upgrades.
Yep. And Hydra's coming over here to try to help deal with that Warp Prism. The Banelings will also clean this up. It's actually crazy to me that we live in a world now where it's meta to make Banelings versus Protoss. It's pretty awesome.
I mean, it's awesome to see that happen. You know, players eventually figure stuff out the more you let them play without changing the game. So I do love that fact as well. We do have a nice tag revelation there on a bunch of those Lurkers. About 7 of them, and he looks like he's going to go for the attack. A big lift on a bunch of those Lurkers. The Phoenix is being sniped, though, and the Baneling's rolling in, doing tons of damage, but is it enough?
Archon's coming in at the front, absorbing a lot of that damage. Some very well-executed barriers here, and it looks like he just will break through this army, and this is just the right kind of comp to make versus this. All these Immortals, they do so much damage to the Hydras, they can absorb so much, and he had those 2 Archons at the front that killed a lot of the Banelings, so everyone else, or everything else could kind of survive and continue to push forward. More harassment damage done here. Well, this game is not over by any means, but Stats is in a great position to move forward and hit this 4th base hard.
Solar's really in a rough spot right now. He's got 1 Lurker. He's morphing 1 Lurker, okay? He's desperately trying to get some more gas here, but he can barely afford any more Lurkers. I think he has to give up this base. Looks like he's going to try to go for the fight, though. To be honest, Stats' army right now has no support for those Immortals.
He has sentries, though, and he can actually try to knock this army out, lock it out, on that ramp there. He does not. Instead, he's just going to fight it straight up. Barriers coming down here, and it's just not enough Zerg.
Yeah, it just doesn't look like it's enough, and Stats pushing forward, kills the entire army of Solar, and is now threatening that 5th base. There's nothing here for him to stop this army.
Another big warp in, and I think that Solar may just be out of steam. He has no money. He's going to lose this 5th base. His 4th base is up for grabs as well. GG! And Stats takes the first game. He deals with those Banelings. He's got, you know, a massive Immortal army. I think he had, like, what, 14 in that big, important fight?
Yeah. And
really
it turns out the Banelings didn't really do too much. You know, he went for 1 drop. It was responded to perfectly by Stats. He took 0 damage from that. And adding the Archons was really smart, too. They soaked up so much of that Baneling damage. They sniped a bunch of the Banelings early on. Of course, again, no armor upgrades for those Banelings, so they were being popped all over the place before they could even do much damage.
Yeah. I was surprised at how confident Stats was fighting without using a Sentry-heavy comp, but he spent the rest of his gas on Storms and Archons, essentially, and all those Immortals he was pumping out. Really impressive play, good control in those fights, excellent barrier usage. We've been talking about it this entire tournament, even in Pro League. Stats' control seems to be like the best Protoss-wise right now in the world. I mean, his barrier pops, the way he alternated them and made them go off right before the Banelings hit. The Stalker control we saw him do versus Patience, where he was like beating Blink Stalkers with regular Stalkers. This guy's control is out of this world, and when you're going up against a comp that's basically based around Banelings essentially, or was started to be based around Banelings, and you're also having to break through Lurker lines with Immortals, control is very important, and we saw him use excellent amounts of it in that last game, so very impressive. But now we're going to Central Protocol.
Yeah, I was going to say that was Stats' first map pick. Okay, he wanted to play on that map. He responded perfectly. The defense was fantastic. You know, all that good stuff. But now everything changes. This could easily go to a 1-1 if Solar doesn't mess this one up. If he's got something planned for this map, I think he picked this one first or second. I think it was first. Yeah, it was first Central Protocol, then Prion Terraces.